Perpetual in perpetuity. That's pretty good.
I mean, it's not wrong. Dennis, my buddy, another week, another dollar, another patreon.com/happy hour.
WEAK or WEEK. Well, we were treated with probably the best episode of Your Honor that's ever aired in 2 seasons.
Was good.
Finally,
was good.
Because Olivia is coming into her own, and she's by far got the best part in the fucking series. She has the best part.
She's the local detective.
No, the mother.
Oh, her name is Olivia? Yeah, right.
I thought so. And and her line, her iconic, soon to be iconic line, eat the fucking cannoli.
Yes,
and then,
that was so good.
When I rewatched that scene, he says he doesn't want to eat it.
No.
And when he puts it in his mouth, he looks like he's going to fucking gag. And this is what we learned. We learned that he is so afraid of her.
Yep.
That at the end of the day, he will do what he's told. And then in the little seduction scene where they finally going to fuck after I don't know how many years they've been estranged in the boudoir, right. She grants him a night in bed, to which he eagerly, of course, approaches. But part number 2 is she is absolutely has him under her controls. Absolutely.
Totally.
And he's turning out to be what his father-in-law would say is a weak man in his dysfunctional family. And that scene when Grandpa, the old Italian dude living on a fucking island off fucking Sicily, go figure, is standing in his grandson's room, and his daughter comes in and he consoles him. And when he chokes up, when he says that he was just a boy, it's probably one of the best scenes in the whole series. Good acting, good writing, great cinematography. And I wanted to comment to you that if you recall this, that when she hugged him in such a way that the back of her head and his face was all you could see in the screenshot. She didn't hug him face out or face down or hug his chest. She did what appeared to be quite a natural hug and hug him so close that she was kind of behind his ear. That was another striking point, important part of the screenplay, where we're clear that not only is her character coming to her own, but her father is central.
Yes.
Her father is central. The dynamics have changed, and we're so tired, I am, of the pathetic fucking judge and his depression, and oh my, he finally eats a piece of peanut butter and realizes that life is good, right? Did you catch that?
Yep.
And so maybe he's coming out of it, and as soon as he stands up to fucking Detective fucking whatever, LaToya, who is just, God, she's a nasty bitch.
Rosie Perez.
Boom, he's arrested. Boom.
Yeah, I mean it's not a spoiler of the actual ending. That's the pre-ending. Like what I emailed you of like eat the fucking cannoli. Sounds like a line from Moonstruck.
You remember the story of The Godfather, where the ad-lib line from one of the men who was a driver, when they were going to go out and kill a guy, they had to kill the guy, then leave the car, and he said, "Ditch the gun." bring the cannoli. That
Right.
line of bring the
Exactly.
cannoli was ad-libbed. His line
Right.
in the script, it was ditch the gun.
Right. And ever since, cannoli is a mobster snack. So
I've never seen it made, and I thought that she was wonderful in the making of it. Just
yeah, the whole I'm
and
gonna go
so
put on
angry.
a chef's costume and do all the deep frying myself and the kneading of the dough and all that stuff. Of course, good shots of dough kneading, it can be very violent.
She was so angry,
Right.
and the fact is what it established for me is that she often goes back there and cooks.
Yeah.
The head cook in the kitchen knew to clear the area, had her chef's coat ready to go, and at the point you know for certain that she's a chef is when she presents it on the
Yes.
clean table
Yes.
in a half moon, and the last thing she does is clean every last crumb and then
Yep.
stand behind it and welcome them to the table. You know that she is indeed a practicing chef.
Right. Did you suspect there was any poison involved? That
No,
might
no,
be
I
there
didn't.
might be
No, I didn't.
some.
I thought that her ownership of the moment and the spiritual connection with being the godfather of her child and her absolute anger,
Right.
kneading the dough, that she had fed on poison. And she was poisonous herself. She was infected with poison. She
Indeed.
was pissed to the max. It didn't need any other drama.
Like with the fungus in her brain.
I think he might have suspected it.
Right, exactly.
The tentative bite he made might have been, oh, well. And I thought that the writing of when she knows that her daughter, Fia, is not going to be there,
Yes.
she instantly graphically slides the shit into the waiting trash can, which would be at a table like that.
Exactly.
It would be there.
Exactly.
And it from the moment I was fucking impressed. You've never heard me say that about this show.
No, you've never been in.
Not in 13 episodes have I told you I was impressed with all things. Never.
And the general lighting and everything around this episode was very nice too. So, did you recognize the father-in-law that came into town from Italy? Did you recognize that person?
From gangster movies of the past, not specifically.
He was instrumental as one of the primary bad guys in Breaking Bad.
Oh no! Well, I never watched Breaking Bad.
Right, and so he and Brian have a past, obviously, and it was good to see him because in Breaking Bad he was always like in a wheelchair and like he'd had a stroke and he couldn't talk, and he had this bell on his wheelchair that he would ding 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 whenever he was like upset about something. So it was nice to see that like the actual actor is well and good. But yeah, he's so practiced at playing this evil mobbed up guy that
Yeah. Well, it's authentic. I mean, he's real old Italian guy. I mean,
right.
The first thing that he's got to do to make it work is open his mouth. The second thing is just appear. I mean,
well, in Breaking Bad, I guess he was probably Mexican or whatever. But the other thing, the one bullet point that I wrote down from the previous episode, where the judge was sort of proffering his head to the gangster's gun, was it reminded me a lot of Breaking Bad because the whole what makes Breaking Bad work is that his character no longer fears death.
Yes.
And once you
Very,
get to a point where you no
yes.
longer fear death, you're capable of anything.
And the detective said to him, I'm
Right.
sorry, the assistant U.S. attorney said to him, "Hey, just can you be truthful with me? When that gun was
Right.
pointing at your head, was it a relief?" And of course, we knew that it was. But here's something for you to consider: all of this dialogue and all these scenes about this what I will call alleged uh, pointing of the gun in the basement. I have a theory that none of that actually happened. That Michael actually just left the party,
And he
and the
dreamed
next
all that?
he didn't dream it; he wished it. And the reason I say that is because the very last shot
Ooh.
of that scene is him in the garage on his knees, and he's completely alone. And my thought wasn't that they left him and he kept kneeling there. My thought was that he was always alone. That he broke. He
Fight
had
Club. He Fight Clubbed.
uh, well, no. Well, I don't know what you mean by that for sure. There, I mean, not. Well, yeah, kind of. Right. One of his personalities was under gunfire, but it's also quite plausible. Of course, anyone would say is that no, they left him there, and he was in such a state that he just kept kneeling there and never moved. You know.
I liked the "I'm not going to be your executioner" line. Like,
Yeah.
you clearly want to die, and because I hate you so much, I'm not going to even give that
Yes.
to you.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I'm going to punish you in the worst imaginable way. I'm going to let you live.
Right. Exactly.
Your wretched life. Although the taste of peanut butter was a spark.
Well, I mean, who doesn't love a good peanut butter after a gun to the head?
Well, I don't think he did for years.
True.
Just case in point. I'm just saying.
So
Did you also
well, hold
catch
on.
up on the? Sorry.
We have to talk about the
There's
final
more.
line.
Of course. Oh, yes. Completely ruined, I must say, by the fact that immediately thereafter they showed episodes to come, what was to come.
Well,
And
no,
the
not to
first,
me. I'm only
not to
judging the
you.
episode that was.
Oh, okay. Well, interesting. It was riveting. It was riveting, and I thought, you know what? Good.
Because
This is going to be
that was a
good.
long settled thing that they went and disturbed.
Far settled. Far
Yes.
settled.
Far settled.
But he's no stranger to death. He's no stranger to murder, and he is a despicable man.
The judge.
Oh yeah.
So, because like in the initial episodes, he was jogging to go visit his wife's grave, right?
Yeah.
That was
In the
like
cemetery,
the very first,
right across from one of the most famous restaurants in town. What's it called? The Admirals? No, the Commander? No. Anyway, a great, huge, bright blue restaurant right
Kentucky
across.
Colonel's Chicken.
No, it's the Commissary. No, not the Commissary. I'll think of it later. But when we ate there, and I don't know why I remember this, probably because smells are the most powerful memory.
Indeed.
Is that where we sat, and it might have been the whole place, it smelled damp. It smelled of menu, and it was so overpowering that I finally asked to be moved to a seat that, even though it was chilly, in a patio.
It was too dank where you were.
Who cares? Who gives a shit? This is just a...
You were given a dank seat.
Dank. And they said, "How do you like your seat?" And I said, "No, thank you."
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. Good. We covered that story.
Well, so what else though about the about the episode was that he finally tells the truth to the mayor,
Yeah.
and the mayor basically says, as we've kind of thought, because he's been lying by omission to the mayor. He's actually said in at least 2 prior episodes that he's done, what he says is, I've never done anything not to protect you, instead of answering the question. In previous episode, did you ever say anything to anyone about me? And the judge's response is, I've never said or done anything that wasn't to protect you.
Right.
And now he comes with this admission, and the judge says, you are a piece of shit, which he is.
Yes.
He gives up the mayor. He gives up the fucking mayor. He's a piece of shit. And the mayor lets him know that.
Yeah. But man, what a tough job the mayor has. This whole you need to not piss off the mob people so they don't kill you, but also the people that voted you in expected something from you and you haven't done anything. And
now he's got to go back to the investors, the black investors that he met with, and tell them, actually, he's going to let Jimmy Baxter do it. And they're going to say, are you fucking kidding me? I was me drooling.
I was impressed, though, with his, okay, Baxter, I'll give you your stuff, but here are the conditions. And then took a whole bunch of ground away from Jimmy.
Yes, but at the end of the day, Baxter Jimmy only had one goal in mind, and that was to build the Baxter district. And those conditions that he gave actually were paltry compared to the amount of money that he plans on making on that plot of land. And so, yes,
which is why it was so clever of the mayor to take those low-hanging fruit, because I think he also knows that Jimmy doesn't care about any of that stuff.
Well,
I don't know if Jimmy's going to be like a Donald Trump person that then doesn't pay the employees or whatever.
He doesn't. There's nothing about him that impresses me in that way. I would think that he's probably a pretty good businessman when it comes down to it. But the thing that's interesting is that the mayor cut a deal with the Department of Justice, and now he's part of the investigation. And he said there's only 2 things that are going to happen. One is Jimmy Baxter's going to build this thing under the conditions we have, or he's going to get busted before that. And either way, we win. Master stroke.
Yep. So, yeah. So well done to him.
The other thing that I gotta comment on is that I'm unimpressed with Cranston's acting vis-a-vis his grandson. He loses because of his, and he would say, that's because I'm so depressed. I'm suicidal. I'm depressed. I can't really get close to anyone. Well, he is in fact getting close to Fia. He is in fact, I don't know. I guess there's nobody else he's close with, the judge, whatever. But by not making that appear to be something meaningful for him,
Michael, the fact that he's I can't see you anymore.
Matter. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, the baby's there, and he doesn't look. And I'm not saying he should caress the baby or do anything that is that
caress the baby
outward,
Judge.
Outward, but at least, can you not look sad? Can you look something other than just bland and something and somewhat bewildered? I mean, he's got this mojo going of this depression,
right?
And it is very, it is what it is. It's nonstop, but there's no other expression. There's no other emotion. there's some sarcasm when it comes to dealing with the detective, which shows that he's got a little life in him.
Yeah, but there's no
really
twinkle.
would just open the door and let her in and not say anything to her.
Yeah,
He's got, but when it comes to this child, he doesn't know. Apparently, he doesn't know or doesn't care to mix the emotion of depression with the emotion of painful sadness, which would make it so much more meaningful and actually make you understand why he wants to kill himself so badly. Because he would even deprive himself of something that is emotionally connected to him as his only remnant of his son, who is the reason that he's so crazy and so depressed. But at the same time, the living tissue of his son, umbilicus atomicus, is there.
right.
And he fails to make the attachment. And one would say, well, that's because he's depressed. Well, I think I want something a little bit more complex than that from him.
Boy, that's a hard line to walk, I would think.
Well, I'm not suggesting that it's an easy emotion to convey, but I know if I were directing it, how I would do it.
Okay.
I want you to say,
damn
that
it, Brian,
line.
show it.
I want you to say that line, and I want you to say it as if there is a nail that you just stepped on sticking through your fucking foot. Say the line like that just happened.
Oh,
he says, I can't see you anymore. I got a fucking nail in my foot. Wait, I'd have to say, wait a minute, Brian. That's not what I was going for. Bring it back.
Seeing you is so painful. God, fuck. Yeah. Well,
anyway, eat to death.
The horse is dead. So I caught up also on the fungus infected people movie show that it the parts where it gets all Z word they were crawling out of the ground was definitely a Z scene. That bit is so less interesting to me than all of the emotions and drama around that. Like, I guess since we talked last, I heard an interview from the Washington Post podcast with an expert on video games, and especially video games turned into movies. And he talked about how this was by far the best video game to movie genre leap ever, and how like one of the creators of this show is one of the creators of the video game. And then after I heard that, I edited our last episode where you talked about your sort of disdain and dismissal of video games as a genre, but he talked about how there are so like one of the reasons that video games the industry is like 10 or 50x what the movie industry is part of this which was ability to tell stories, and that there are cinematic video games where they draw you along a storyline and you can sort of act in a particular scene with your character or whatever, but you're going to be pulled along this storyline. And there are video games that make people cry because they're so poignant, and other ones that make people terrified because they're so scary. And how The Last of Us was and probably still is one of the best. Like when Last of Us came out and people started playing it, they all said this feels like an HBO miniseries. Like the writing and the story. It feels like I'm watching something on HBO, which is super ironic. 10 years later, that it actually flips and does that. And he talked about how this plot of this show so closely follows exactly the plot of the video game. Like pretty much every single one of these episodes actually happened. The only difference is
Pittsburgh, Kansas City, right?
Right. And the primary differences was that in the video game you were seeing everything from Joel's point of view. So like episode 3 with the bromance was not
they diverted
a little bit. And also importantly, because this was 10 years ago, part of the story of how the virus spread was airborne particulates and everyone was wearing a mask. And in 2023, that shit don't fly because we're all accustomed to wearing a mask and we know what wearing a mask protects you from and what it doesn't. And
we're smart on masks.
And we're sick and tired of seeing people without seeing their mouths. And so they specifically diverted that particular plot line to make it not that way, to make it transmitted by bite or whatever. But it was really interesting to hear how interesting that is. And his prediction, he said, strangely, the only other video game to movie adaptation that he's seen that fans don't hate was the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Did that register with you at all?
Not a bit.
So long time ago on there was Nintendo, and then the other competing platform was the Sega thing. And they had this run along, collect all the coins, rings, I guess, character that was called Sonic the Hedgehog. Anyway, a couple years ago, they made a sort of a live action thing that like everyone laughed at the trailer, and but it turns out the actual fans of the video game actually really love that particular movie more than like that was the previous example of an adaptation that worked. But and he also said that, are you familiar with Super Mario Brothers? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So he said that later
Pac-Man. Are you gonna Pac-Man? I used to do Pac-Man.
That you're showing.
That's the last video game I played.
Yes. Later this year, they're coming out with a Mario movie that is, according to this journalist,
is like the Three Stooges kind of thing.
No,
Mario Brothers, like the Two Stooges.
It's no. So Mario from the Super Mario Brothers video game is he likened it to, and I totally agree, is the most beloved character, second only to like Mickey Mouse, as like a thing that everyone enjoys.
Oh well, I guess.
That movie is going to make so much money.
Fact of Mickey Mouse, but the original Mickey Mouse,
indeed,
the black and white cartoon,
right, on the steamboat, yeah.
Steamboat Willie.
Steamboat Willie, baby.
Good job. Good job, Eric.
I can pull some.
You were what? You weren't born for what? 20 more years since that was.
You weren't born when Steamboat Willie came out, I don't think.
When do you think it came out?
I think that predates you.
I don't think so.
Really?
You'll find out
Well,
quicker than shit.
were you born before or after 1928?
Before
Well, there you go.
1926, I was born.
Steamboat Willie is
I'm
1928.
94. I'm 94 years old.
How crazy!
Ah,
How crazy is that? That it's
look a
that
day.
freaking old.
That's funny. You don't look a day over 75.
Indeed.
So, what else about this episode, though? Because I thought that it was, quirky and emotional. The whole thing about Henry and what was Isaiah?
Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, I'm pleased to see that both of these shows we're talking about, the people in charge, for good or for ill, are women. Like, that's super rare in entertainment. Like the cops that are chasing down Your Honor, and the mob boss in Your Honor, the strong people are women. And ever since she was introduced, I've been curious with The Last of Us about the story of this Kathleen person that's ruling Kansas City. And we got a little insight into her background with, like, this is the childhood bedroom that I grew up in. But I'd be super curious to, like, I wouldn't mind a flashback where we saw Kathleen's journey to the present day.
Well, and as it turns out, she's dead already. So
Well, that's why I said flashback.
Well, I know that, but my point.
And also, last time you claimed that when you get bitten, you're not dead, like a zombie.
Oh, so we don't know what happens to her. You're right.
I mean,
she may not be.
Last time you pushed back on me about, like, if you get bitten,
she may
then
not
you're
be
undead
dead. You're
or
right.
whatever.
I'm sorry. I'm glad
Okay.
that I taught you something.
I just want to complain.
I taught you something. Some analytical thinking. Finally, something different.
What?
You know what I saw? I got to change the subject a quick second for some reason. Did you ever watch Whiplash?
Yes.
I watched it 2 more times in the past month. A whole time, and then tuned into about the last half.
Really, you would want to? That movie was. I don't want to experience that again. It was the taste in my mouth when I finished that.
Well, the fact that it had a heroic, thrilling ending, apparently didn't take you out of your little fucking doldrums of misery from the fucking Mr. Fletcher character, who was just terrible human being. It was depressing for most of the movie. It was beyond it, but I thought that it reclaimed its glory in the final scene, which was as good a musical scene I've ever seen on the fucking screen.
The thing I most recall about that movie was learning that the actor was actually learned all of that drum bit.
Yeah, he's a big star now too, because he's playing in the biggest selling movie of all time, Top Gun. Top Gun Maverick. He's the son.
Of course he is. Yeah.
He's the son, and in this one he's buff, and obviously older than Whiplash, but also it is superb acting. Miles Teller is his name.
Indeed.
But
yeah,
I didn't have to read somewhere that he learned it. I knew he learned it. It was him. The shots, there was no finger fangle with the shots. It wasn't like showing his his shoulders and his head while I mean, it showed him playing.
That's so easy to do with the piano.
Yes, it is. And Fletcher, I would imagine that the great actor who played Fletcher,
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons obviously played his own jazz piano. Obviously, there was no, and it was sort of like, if Miles Teller can learn to play drums like that, you can learn to play the fucking piano, fucker. Maybe he knew already, but he was superb.
Wow. Yeah. That. So do you think like Miles Teller, he learned that for a role, and then when they said cut on the final scene, he stopped drumming? Or do you think he like drums as a hobby now? Or do you think...
I think he's probably extraordinarily busy, and he would tell you, I still love to play, but I don't get to do it very much. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing somewhere with someone.
Right.
It would definitely be a jazz ensemble,
Right.
If well, that's not necessarily true, because just because he learned to play the drums for jazz doesn't mean that he couldn't want to play the drums for other. But there's no the preeminence of the drum set in jazz would put it at the pinnacle of a drummer's dreams, I would assume.
Right.
You're not gonna want to be the drummer for gospel. You're not gonna want to be the drummer for blues, or even for rock and roll, that matter. If you want to be something extraordinary, you're going to be a jazz drummer.
What a crazy career it is to go from job to job, where you're like, okay, for the next 9 months, you have to get really good at tennis, or really good
fly fishing,
and we're your employers. We are going to hire experts to teach you to do this as well as possibly as you can do it, and you're going to work for like all day, every day to accomplish this, or to get really buff, or to learn to drive,
skinny. Or to get real fat,
get really skinny, get really fat, or to learn to ride a horse really well, or something. And then you go, and then you get on set, or to like be a martial artist. And then you get on set and you do your thing, and they cut it together in a way that looks like you know what the fuck you're doing. And then they're like, okay, thanks. And then you're off to do the next thing, where it's like, now you're going to learn to be a artistic painter or something. It's just like, what a crazy and interesting life that must be.
And you get paid so much money to do it, and it's like, well, yeah, I'll do this.
Well, that's why everyone wants to get in on that. That's why everyone wants to be there.
So few do. Oh my God.
So I've mentioned this before, but I listened to this podcast by Dana Carvey and David Spade about SNL.
I would love to hear that sometime.
And they talk about celebrity in this weird way, about how the transition between being not known for anything to being immediately known for everything, and how angry people asking for autographs are when you start to intimate that you're like, okay, there's only 10 more, like I only have time for another 2. How just livid they get. just with this, I don't know, with this assumption that you owe them that or something.
Yes, right. Well,
And anyway,
it's
and how that celebrity is, and how going from job to job, and how you don't know when you make the movie, you don't have any idea if it's going to flop. Like, you put all your effort into this, and you make this movie, and you put your everything into this, and then 6 months go by where they're editing the movie, and then it comes out, and you have to do all the press around it.
This big production with Brad Pitt and Robbie.
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie is a good example of that. It came out and completely got creamed by the critics. Nobody went to see it, and it died of quick death. And it was all of that. It was all of what you say. Hold on.
The last two I remember. The last one I remember about with those two was
Suicide.
Something about Hollywood
called Babylon. It's the name of it.
Babylon. Period film called Babylon, starring Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie. Huh. Never heard of this, which is probably related to its demise. 2022. Huh. Well, I mean, just given the ensemble cast, as Facebook says.
So much money to make and just lost money. Bomb.
Well, I mean, really, yeah. So the budget was 80 million, and they made 60 million. So
my point.
If 20 million sounds like a loss to you, then
yeah, it does.
You know,
if a film doesn't make if the film doesn't at least break even, it is what we call a quote bomb, end quote.
Boom.
Bomb.
All right.
Could have been worse.
Don't say that when you're going through TSA.
Security, right. Right.
So let's focus back. We got pulled away. This Henry person, like in the previous episode, Henry was this enemy number one. Like, she even said, you know, we heard some info about Henry, let's go there immediately. And her number one was like, can we do that like tomorrow? And she was like, oh, is this your seventh priority? Because it's not my seventh priority. Is this your seventh fucking priority?
Because Henry killed her brother.
And he was like, no. That's a pretty slick move. Like, I respect that. Is what I just told you to do not important to you? Because if it isn't, let me know.
And how do you think she's doing in that role, the actress?
She's fucking scary. Like she should be.
Although you know, I kind of had the impression that the more I saw her, the more I would be comfortable with her in that role, because I've seen her in so many other roles, and her voice pattern is not particularly commanding.
Yes.
And yet it's kind of disarming, but she shows herself to be so fucking crazy and murderous that the voice is just don't be fooled kind of thing. But just as quickly as I was kind of becoming more comfortable with that, her as far as we know, her character was gone. But you raise an interesting point. Even though we saw it looked like her face was being eaten off.
And she was so kind, seemingly kind to the captives, but then she's totally willing to slaughter innocent people
Well,
because
she sent her brutes in there to kill them all.
yeah.
They went in with 3 AK-47 that they got off the street
Right.
when they were 14, when they were in counseling. Oh, so devastating news. A little bummer here on weapons and mass murders right up the road from us here at Michigan State University.
Saw that.
Yeah, chilling, man. Chilling. 3 dead, 5 injured. Could have been worse, as one would say, but the whole campus shut down. Students are leaving in droves. They don't feel safe. They're scared to death.
The fact that was only a little tiny blip on my news radar is
tells you everything
depressing
you need
as
to know.
fuck.
I think there was 167 mass shootings in the United States so far this year, something like that. I think I got that number right.
It's not.
It's not a small number.
So I just learned that the actress that plays Kathleen, Melanie Lynskey, is married to, since 2020, is married to Jason Ritter, who is John Ritter's son. John Ritter being the actor, what's he most famous for? Three's Company.
Three's Company, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
and a beloved actor who died young.
He died on set of 8 Simple Rules. Yeah. Anyway, that's also sad. So
right. Well, we go from mass shooting to deaths on set.
I really loved.
So all our listeners are gone, so it's just you and me, buddy.
I loved the. Okay, so I tried to watch the first episode with my family of Last of Us, and because I was like, "Hey, this is a good show. It's a little scary. There's a little zombie stuff." And as soon as the old lady had shit coming out of her mouth, the whole family was like, no, turn this off. But what it allowed me to appreciate is that 60-70% of the first episode was getting you to fall in love with Joel's daughter, because she's so nice and friendly and lovable and just the way that they did that to then jerk that rug out from under your feet so hard at the end was pretty masterful. Like that was well done. And the other thing is I loved in this fifth episode, how the kids got along and played. I loved that.
Well, it was they set the stage for such an emotional, abrupt scenes. No spoiler actually, because that would really be too much. But
which is why that brought me back to thinking about that brought me back to the first episode of how lovely and poignant that was, and the that they chose to make him deaf. Like, that was optional, but they did, and that shows inclusivity of more diversity in the show. Like, it's very
very well done. It's very, very well written, I think, and I think pretty realistic considering the genre. I heard a show the other day from a biologist who explained the basis of the show being fungi and fungi, and whether that is at all good science or not. And she explained a lot about it, and it included, of course, as you would expect, the potential for mutation at any given time. But one of the things that she said was, when I do research and I look at the threat of all things writ small on the world, I know that we are investigating viral threats to the nth degree, and there's so much being written. But let me tell you something. 1.5 million Americans died last year because of a fungal infection. And we know so little about it that it scares me to death. And that's the way that little show ends.
Well, that was, I don't know if you're
a science-based show.
I don't know if you're misremembering or not, but that was actually how this show started, was with old-timey footage of an expert saying, the thing that most terrifies me is fungus.
But this was a real scientist who did this just last week.
Okay. So
just last week.
And the other thing, from my understanding of the frontiers of science, we are just barely exploring what the hell fungus is up to. And I think we've talked about before how we've discovered that they are like providing this like internet communication system between trees under the ground in the forest, where the fungus, where the fungus is like passing nutrients from the asp to the willow during some parts of the year, and then when the willow has more nutrients, it's returning the loan
to the food
through the fungus.
The video you sent me was astounding, but the thing that strikes me after having thought about it, and I'm afraid dreamt about it last night, was that when a fungus knows there's food, it will go in the fastest direction to get there. And if there is something it doesn't like on the way, such as salt or light, that it will avoid those things. And so there was an urban planning group that was planning a regional metro system and came up with a design based on all the science they had at their disposal. And then years later, they use a fungal cell, searching for food and avoiding light, and used as the basis of, like, they're designing a mass transit system. So a city where they wanted to go was food, and a body of water or a mountain or a river was light. And when the fungal cell tracked to the food, it created something that was actually more efficient than the humans could do in all of their science. And this is by a one-celled creature.
Yes, that is
I about fell off my chair.
Yes, that is very close to the truth. It's my understanding that slime molds, despite their name, are not actual fungi. I think they're technically bacteria. But yes, I also fell off my chair because that's like literally one of the thing that they teach you when you're learning computer science that seems like it should be super easy, but actually like mathematically isn't, is what they call the traveling salesman problem. And the traveling salesman problem is you've got all these cities and these all these nodes, all these cities and these highways that connect them, and you know the distance and the cost of traveling each of these highways. What's the most efficient way to visit all of these places once? And it turns out, counterintuitively, this is a problem that is what they call NP complete, which means that you cannot guarantee the amount of time it's going to take to solve this problem with like computing power. It's just one of these hard problems in computer science. I'll put a link in the show notes to all of this.
Does it take into account, like for distances between cities, the average number of days or hours that the
you're
down, or
the link between the nodes, the highways between the cities are given a weight. Like this is how much it costs to move from here to there. And given that, it's you can't do that well. And the fact that this, for all intents and purposes, consciousness-less single cell can use its mechanisms with avoiding things and going to things that it likes to more or less solve that problem is pretty humbling. We'll call it. So there we go.
Well, it's the other thing to comment about your video was how hilarious it was. That they kept beeping the guy out because he kept swearing. He said a lot of words that I was surprised they didn't bleep out. And at one point, he described he was wild with his descriptions of the mole. You know,
I've been a fan of his for literally 20 years.
Really,
he was. Before YouTube was around, and before vlogger was a term where like a person releases a video every week or every whatever, he was doing that, and he was so entertaining, and he gathered such a following. Like at some point, he like had a TED talk where he talked about how he harnessed his following to do good in the world or whatever, but now he's, I don't want to call him retired, but now he puts out a video every couple of months like this, where it's all about nature and stuff. And his sense of humor comes through so well. Like he laughs. Like there's other ones where like there are ants that are like climbing over each other, and he sort of giggles about like, oh, don't put your butt in his face or whatever.
Well, just the thing is his delivery is so rapid fire.
It's so good. It's so good.
Funny parts, they're so fleeting, and that you've got to listen. So you're kind of chuckling about what he said, but he's already onto something else. So it was great.
Just like this podcast, really. I just said a thing, and now I'm on to the next thing.
We are. They call us fun guys for a reason.
Indeed,
a couple of fun guys.
Just to shout out, that guy's name is Ze Frank. Z-E is his first name, and Frank is his last name. And I will link the hell out of him in the show notes at happyhour.fm/176.
I got to tell you that I am absent 2 episodes from now. Just mark your calendar. And with that, I've got to scoot. It's been a wonderful hour. And I'm so glad you got the editing done. I've told everybody that yes, there's a lot of money involved, but he's worth every bit of money he gets for the work he does for this show. So on behalf of me and
one day it would be nice to actually have the income be able to afford the domain name. So we're when that moment happens, we're going to celebrate.
How much is that?
Our domain name.
Yeah.
It's like $80 a year or something.
Oh God, we're so far from that.
Because like your typical dennisisdumb.com is like $7 a year. You can get that. But for a .fm, that's more expensive. So we're on our way there. Luckily, I just got paid. Today's my first payday with my new job.
Oh, so yeah.
I'm rolling in the money.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
It is.
Well, man,
but
I will.
We still need more money
next week. And I did, as you saw, I caught up on all the homework. Let me see if all the stuff you sent me. We talked about the cannoli.
We did everything.
We didn't talk about the magic box, but we covered that the last episode. The delivery box from the Porch Pirates. I thought that was fabulous. And Dirty Dancing was great. The Hillary Clinton Trump song fest. Although I wanted there to be more of it, I would have loved it to have been the whole song instead of just the first part.
Just saying Dirty Dancing got that song stuck in my fucking head for like 3 days. And now another 2 days.
Good. That was all good. And you sent me some shit about Pedro Pascal, which I haven't seen almost all the shows he's been in, except Game of Thrones, and I didn't realize it was him until I saw it. And of course he was the Red Knight. Of course he was. He was very excited about that role.
I loved how he had more than one role where his eyes were gouged out. That was funny.
And he explained how it was done. Well, anyway, bro, I'm out of here, man. I love you. I'll talk to you in a week.
Later, man.
And we'll talk offline about this thing in May. I got to give it some thought. I'm intrigued.
Peace out, bro.
Good job.
Okay, that's it for episode number 176. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/176, where there are links to the Godfather scene and the Smart Slime video and the traveling salesman problem, all of that good stuff. You can support the show at patreon.com/happyhour. And see you next week.